you're thankful you have organizations like Pittsburgh and Baltimore that know what they're doing, right? And they have 2 quarterbacks that you know what you got. Right now, there's teams in the NFL that have young quarterbacks, but then it seems like they don't know what the hell that they're doing. The biggest one right now, we'll start with this around the NFL. We'll get back into the Ravens Steelers with Nick Moore. Guys, the Colts are going back to their 4th overall pick from a year ago, Anthony Richardson. 2 weeks ago, when they made the proclamation that Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season. And then they
week.
And then they go to Minnesota. They go to Minnesota Skull. And
that was a rough game.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was a bad game.
Rough game for the Colts.
Football.
Didn't score an offensive touchdown. And then they played Buffalo, where they just were behind from the jump. Joe struggled as well.
Yeah.
And now they go, we're going to go back to the rookie now. So much so, though, that it's had a lot of people kind of, losing their minds, to say the least here. So 2 people in particular, but let's start with Michael Lombardi, that really went after Shane Steichen and the Colts, of really asking the question, what the hell are you doing and what is going on in Indianapolis?
Front of us for the Indianapolis Colts literally can still make a playoff push, can still win the AFC South, depending upon what happens with the Houston Texans, even though they have the tiebreaker because they beat us both times we played this year. How do you think this situation is kind of unfolded, and what are your thoughts on AR getting back in the lineup for the Indianapolis Colts, Lombo?
Well, I mean, look, I think it's very disappointing that we didn't really have a plan of operation for this all the way through. I think, to me, when you draft this young man the 4th pick and then he misses all of last season, you hoped he'd have a little bit of a different plan and a different way of doing things. But I think this is the only course of action the Colts could have taken. Joe Flacco, God love him, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. It was hard for him to really get the run game going. There's no movement out of the quarterback. That 4th and 2 call last week, to me, again, Shane Steichen continues to dazzle you on some of these ridiculous decisions that he makes that cost his team football games. That game's 20-13. If he kicks the field goal there, it's 20-16, and Buffalo may not go down and score again. So I think there's a lot of things going on in that building that need to get corrected, not just Richardson. But, look, this is a project. This kid has struggled to throw the football. His accuracy has been really bad, and I think, to me, that's the only way he's going to get better is to play it. You knew there's going to be growing pains. You knew there's going to be days where it's going to be really challenging. You just got to accept it, and you've got to play a 3-dimensional game. You've got to play better defensively. You got to try to run the football more effectively with him. You got to limit. Look, you know what's remarkable about the NFL? Justin Herbert's as good a player as anybody in the league. And yet the Los Angeles Chargers are the last team in the National Football League in passing attempts this year, right? They're managing their quarterback. They're doing the things that they have to win the game. And I think, to me, look, you want to run this offense. You want to do what you do. You want to be a great play caller. All that's good. But you got to figure out how to win the game. And I think that's what they got to do with Richardson.
Right there, Michael Lombardi feels a certain way. But the questions that are coming out of Indianapolis is, what is the game plan for Anthony Richardson, right? You draft him last year. You understand he's inexperienced if you look at the college tape for him. Just the lack of games. It's not the talent, lack of games.
Right.
He gets hurt, and then you have this full year off season, right, guys, to kind of think, all right, what is the plan with Anthony? Because we know that he needs to go out and play to figure it out. Or before the season, you go, you know what? Let's ease him into this situation and have Joe Flacco start the season. But now they're in that limbo space here. And clearly, Zach, this is something that is not going away anytime soon. But it is a question mark that's happening because Anthony Richardson, one thing he doesn't lack is talent.
Yeah.
But he does lack the ability right now to
experience,
lead a team.
Right.
And be the face of this franchise here and feel like everyone's working in unison.
Yeah, I mean, the word that I'll use for this is, once again, malpractice. You drafted the guy 4th overall. We even talked to Matt Miller on Monday, ESPN's Matt Miller, who covers the draft in depth, everything. He even said that in his case, he would have told Anthony Richardson to stay another year at Florida, stay in college, because everyone knew, hey, this guy, his talent is off the charts. It's going to take a year or 2. It's going to be, you have to do it slowly with him. You can't just throw him out there and think he's going to be this world beater. So from the start, it was obvious, hey, this is a guy that needs to develop. You need to put him in situations to win, whether that's sitting him and he learns from a quarterback like a Joe Flacco, whether it's you put him out there and you tell him, hey, you make as many mistakes as you want, but this is your team. There are so many different ways to do it. The one way you can't do it is you have him starting, then you're like, never mind, you're not good enough to start. We're putting in this backup. Wait, okay, he sucks now too. You need to come back in. The back and forth is ruining this player's development for a guy that we knew had the talent. The only thing he needed was development. It was no secret when he was coming out. I even said he should be the #1 overall pick last year because I think the talent and the ceiling is that much higher than everyone else.
Yeah.
But you knew the development was going to be there, and they're completely missing the ball on it.
I agree with everything that Lombardi said, except for the fact that bringing back AR to start was their only option. You just ride with Flacco the rest of the season at this point. Like, you have the experience, and to your guys' points, giving him the opportunity to develop as a quarterback, sit behind somebody who at least has experience, who's won a Super Bowl, who's won a Super Bowl MVP at that. Like, regardless of how this season turns out, Joe Flacco should have just started the rest of the season and then actually come up with a plan for Anthony Richardson next season to become a starter, because throwing him back in after 2 weeks, you're not and expecting a better result. It's just not how it's going to work. It's just not. This season for the Colts is over, in my opinion.
Here's the thing. How can you do? The Colts know what they want to do?
No,
the Colts even know idea if they want to go win or develop Anthony Richardson? Because you made the move to start Flacco because you were in win now mode.
Right.
Was kind of the message you were saying, like, okay, Richardson still needs to develop. We think we have a shot. We're going to go win now mode. Then Flacco doesn't really, dazzle. I think he had some costly drops against Buffalo that really hurt them, but still not a great performance from him.
Right.
I just don't, once again, the flipping back and forth, there's no clear direction that they're putting this on him plan. And that's what's hurting Anthony Richardson is, if it's either develop him or tell him it's his team and you can make as many mistakes as possible.
Yep.
But you can't be flip-flopping. Oh, we want to develop Anthony Richardson long-term. Never mind, we want Flacco to try to help us win this year. Just kidding. Now we think Anthony Richardson helps us win.
You're setting them up,
right now,
setting them both up for failure.
So right now, then it goes back to it's sending the right message to your squad, to your team. What is going on? And it includes then to the players. And by the way, the Colts sit at 4-6. We'll get into the later conversation about like the Bengals and the Chargers. There's going to be one team out of the Bengals, the Colts, the Broncos, or the Dolphins, guys, that it's going to get into the playoffs more than likely. One of those teams, yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys go look at the standings. One of those teams is going to get the last spot just of how it's all shaken out. The Colts are 4-6 and lost to the division-leading Texans by a combined 5 points when Anthony started. Yeah. So there was not the best efforts. That was obviously the game where he took himself out, the second one, but they're very close. But the mixed messaging is what I was talking about, and it's definitely confusing the players.